Alright, out of all the reviews I'm going to do for Digimon, I feel like Season 6 I would have the most to talk about. So as such, this video is probably going to be a placeholder for a very long time before I can ever do this one justice. So, let's start with the background of this season. So at this time in my life, I was probably at Season 2, maybe Season 3. In all honesty, I thought Digimon died after that particular season. So when I heard that a new one was in the works, I was just dumbfounded. And then to later hear that the show had actually gone past Season 2, and that Season 3 would be the best, I was just excited. Because I honestly thought it was a dead franchise, something that just didn't catch on. So let's just say there was a lot of build-up to this particular season. Now on top of that, it also seemed to take forever to finally get a dub of this thing. So the main thing is, as I stated before, I never really had cable. I mean, sure I have cable, but it was very basic. Only the major networks. You got your ABC, NBC. I don't think I had Fox. Maybe I had some sort of equivalent. WCNY. All the very basic channels. So when I heard that this would be going on to Nickelodeon, I was quite disappointed. But then, hope came around again when I heard that it would be part of a Saturday morning lineup. So, just in case I don't want to be like that old man that's just like, hey, this was before the era of cell phones, because this wasn't really that long ago. So up until maybe 2015, I guess. Wow, 5 years ago. It's amazing how time flies. There was this little tradition called Saturday morning cartoons. If you actually lived through them, you could probably just skip ahead. This is what I'm going to be talking about for the next few minutes. So, Saturday morning cartoons. This was a tradition, I want to say, started back in the 40s when syndicated television was just becoming a thing. So, as the name suggests, every Saturday morning from about, say, 6 o'clock to noon, there wouldn't be any news, there wouldn't be any sitcoms, there wouldn't be any soap operas, there wouldn't be anything that was meant for adults. It was a sacred time that was dedicated to cartoons and then later towards kid-friendly sitcoms. But that was how NBC ended. So towards the end of it, it got to a point where only one station was doing such a program anymore, and that was the CW, which formerly used to be Warner Brothers. And that is how I watched Digimon Fusion. It was nice to kind of be able to relive that sacred time one last time before it went away again forever. Even to this day, I still try to keep the tradition alive. Sure, there's kind of a, because the network just doesn't choose the show for you and the commercials aren't geared towards kids. But at the same time, if I can watch cartoons, something to just kind of forget about all the turmoil in the world and just laugh at either extreme violence or genuinely good humor. That is space is what Saturday morning cartoons means to me. So, one of the other drawbacks is that it was on at, I want to say, either 10:30 or 11 Saturdays. And wouldn't you know, this is when I get my first job. Saturdays from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I believe. So I can never actually watch the episodes as they were airing. What I would do is I would set up a tape with a bit of a timer to pick up everything from that time period. and then later I would convert those recordings onto DVD. This was over broadcast cable. The cable wires we had in this particular setup were not necessarily the greatest, so the audio was very muffled, sounding like this. And for the very first episode, there was a lot of snow all over the pictures. But at the same time, I am happy that I converted all those to DVD and took out all the commercials. It is a bit of a time capsule that cannot be recaptured here. So I was able to record most of season 1. The thing that irritated me is that there was one episode I missed. I forgot to push the program button and it didn't record, and I missed that one episode. I am so thankful that they summarize every episode before they start the new one, but at the same time, that was quite a long story arc for them to start over and then get to the point that I missed. So I want to say it was about halfway in between. Anyway, it got to the end of the story, which I later realized would be season 1. This particular series lasted 2 seasons because it had a much grander story to tell. Or rather, there was just a ton more filler in season 1. But anyway, it got to the end of that and it started rotating again. And I'm just like, yes, now I can finally get that one episode I missed. And on top of that, I got a new job, which I worked on the weekdays, so I could actually watch this in the format that it was intended. Got to about the 3rd episode when they said, no more Saturday morning cartoons. What was I greeted to instead? Some guy training his dog. And I'm just like, what is this? Where are the cartoons? I was hoping maybe next week. Nope. Week after that. Nope. Even to this day, it's still the same programming. So I was really in the dark. I had no idea what happened. But then about a few months passed, and I remember there was this one YouTuber. I wish I could remember what his name was. He went through the entire history of Saturday morning cartoons. And he basically stated that after that particular day, where it started going to the person training his dog, was where the tradition finally ended. There was a lot of things leading up to it, but basically, if you're going to be a major broadcaster, you got to have at least 4 hours of educational content. Which, if you'll notice on Saturdays, there's like a little thing up here in the corner that says IE, which stands for educational and informative. That's what it's for. They had to have 4 hours of educational programming. And, well, I guess this isn't educational. It doesn't teach you the values of teamwork or friendship or diversity and tolerance. No! It doesn't even show you how to deal with problems or leadership skills. This is uneducational. Okay, I'm ranting now. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So that is the very background of how I watched this particular season. Season 2, I was really glad to see, was added to Netflix. So then I could actually figure out what happened once Mikey and Shoutmon went back into the digital world. From there, I was really surprised. While Season 1 was really just a lot of running around from task to task, Season 2 there was no filler whatsoever. It was just straight up, okay, here's the story. We have to finish it in like 20 episodes. And in all honesty, Season 2 of Fusion is probably some of the best work you will see in Digimon. Not only because the animation budget has been bumped up a little more, as well as modernized, but also the characters and the story. It's just very unique. It's very fresh. It's just very well done. To the point where I see the climax and I'm basically like that guy after the end of Raiders. My face just melted right off because it was so good. And the whole time I'm just kind of like, Why couldn't the first part be this amazing? So, anyway, that was my viewing experience of Fusion. Now, since I actually have the Season 1 counterpart here, I'm going to do my best to kind of summarize it a little bit, as well as state why I think the first one is a lot weaker compared to the second. So the major story we have here is Mikey. He's a basketball player. One night he has a dream about warring Digimon factions, both flying different flags. Unlike Season 4, it was the Beast Digimon versus the Human Digimon. It's more about who they gave their allegiance to. Mikey wakes up and he is greeted to an extreme basketball game, where because he got so little sleep the night before, he passes out from exhaustion. But luckily he is revived to hear a voice, which we then figure out to be the voice of Shoutmon. He somehow was able to get into the real world, though he's in a very weakened state after trying to fend off the baddie of the two allegiances stated before. Mikey, feeling sorry for Shoutmon, attempts to try to save him, and so he is given a Digivice as well as a portal to get into the digital world. Now, I forgot to mention these other two characters. So we have Jeremy, who's basically the John Ratzenberger of the Digimon season. Now, for those of you that don't know, John Ratzenberger has at least one small cameo in every single Pixar movie. So let's see, in Toy Story, he was the Piggy Bank. In Monsters, Inc., he's the Abominable Snowman. Bug's Life, he's the Flea. So on and so on. If you've seen those movies, you know what he sounds like. So, just like John Ratzenberger, the person who voices Jeremy has been in every single season of Digimon. He was Devimon in Season 1, Vmon in Season 2, Impmon in Season 3, Season 4, I'm drawing a blank as to who he voiced there. I know Season 5 was a very brief cameo. He came back again to reprise his role as Devimon, and then he comes back again as the voice of Jeremy, which he is really big into kendo and has had a bit of a rivalry with Mikey here. He's about to challenge him to another duel when the digital world opens. And then over here we have... what is her name? I want to say it's like Lolly. No. I hope it's not Lolly. That wouldn't be right. I know it's not Mimi. Dang it. Let me see if it says on the back of the box. That's the nice thing about buying the official set. You got a nice little guidebook, which tells you all the names of all the people. Ah, Angie. That's what it is. As soon as I knew I had a bit of an association with that name. There is a Led Zeppelin song about a woman named Angie. Angie has a bit of an obsession with Mikey, kind of similar to, say, Rose with Sonic. I believe that's what her name is. The idea that she always wants to go on a date with him, but he does not want any part of it. It's kind of interesting, but the character grows more into a annoying, stereotypical girl into more of a compassionate soul, befriending some Digimon along the way. Jeremy, being the Kendo master, basically helps teach the ways of the sword, as well as even helps out with a few of the fights. So the basic gist of Digimon Fusion is that the big baddie, known as Lord Bagra, wants to take over the digital world. No big surprise. Now how they do it this time is each particular area has a code crown, which whoever holds the code crown has ownership over that particular territory. So let's say if you're playing Risk, you basically would own that particular country if it's your color. Now, in addition to Lord Bagra, there's also several other factions battling for control. We also have Team Blue Fire, I believe, which is headed by a mysterious person named... He's not in here. Let's just call him Matt for now. He basically has about the same characteristics as Matt from Season 1. Blonde hair, blue eyes, very off to himself, and very deeply involved with his Digimon. And then there is also another team led by, I believe her name is Nene offhand. I forget what her team name was. I want to say Mikey's was called the Fusion Fighters. But the thing with Nene we later discover is that one of her main Digimon, Lord Nightmon, I believe, is in league with Lord Bagra. And so he kind of has a little bit of control over her. And the main reason that she went to the digital world in the first place is that her little brother, Ewan, I want to say, like Ewan McGregor, got sucked into the digital world, and she went in to try to save him. It's been a very long time since I last seen this. In all honesty, I've only ever seen it beginning to end once. That was when I was seeing it once every Saturday. Which I can definitely say, this is the best season to do that with. Because when it comes to Season 1, each episode is basically one faction trying to battle dominance for one particular code crown. Sometimes it takes 2 episodes to get the code crown, sometimes 3. But for the most part, it's very easy to follow. But the only problem is they don't really leave you with too much suspense to be like, I want to see the next episode. It just isn't really a build-up for anticipation for the next week, other than the idea of, well, where will they go to next? What is the next code crown? But occasionally it gets to a point where at the very end of this season, and all of a sudden the story kicks right in, and you're just kind of like, whoa, this is amazing. The only problem is that's like the last 3 episodes. And when I was first watching it on those Saturday mornings, it was quite disturbing that it ended on such a high note and on such a cliffhanger. It's like now that I'm actually vested in what's going on, I cannot watch it anymore. So I was happy that Netflix picked it up. Now let's see, along the way, I believe Mikey and this other kid, Matt, joined together. Nene sort of joins the team, but is more like a sniper on the hill protecting him rather than a soldier in the trenches like Matt is. Now, eventually it does get to a point where they don't necessarily take all the code crowns. They get enough dominance to be a force to be reckoned with. And then it gets to a point where Lord Bagra, I believe, actually gets enough power to enter the real world. And so there is a very epic fight there. And it's probably the best showdown that any series Digimon has ever done. It's just a lot to sit through in order to get there. Now, to reiterate, I don't really think that the first part of Digimon Fusion is bad. It's just, there's not really a whole lot going on. It's just, okay, they got another code crown. What happens next time? They get another one. Oh, they've got a new Digimon. Oh, well, that's nice. And then it's just so on and so on. You could probably just skip the first 3 episodes. Then you could probably skip to the last 5 where the actual story happens, and you wouldn't be out too much. Sure, you'd probably see a lot of new Digimon and be like, when did you get those? But that's about it. There's a lot of filler. So, Digimon Fusion. It is a hot mess. It may be a mess, but it's still a hot one. And like I said, when this season shines, it shines. It's just a pity that that consistency couldn't last throughout it. I will say, though, even though people are very decisive and very hateful to this season, I think it is a landmark. Because after this, there was another season that took off. I forget what it was called. I want to say it was Applemon. I'm still waiting for a dub for that. But it also helped reinvigorate the series to a point where Tri could come back again. Now, I know that one is very decisive as well. There are people that love it and people that hate it. I personally love it. And then on top of that, there was another series that came out after that. And I feel like it was all thanks to Digimon Fusion. Sure, it might not be the best, but it was popular enough to bring back the franchise. And for that, I will be very grateful. I think that's about it. If there was any talking points you think I missed, you can feel free to leave a comment and I will comment back. Till next time, keep having fun.